Have you ever wondered what happened to those legendary black and gold Trans Ams after they finished jumping bridges and outrunning cops in Smokey and the Bandit? What if I told you that by the time filming wrapped, not a single one of those cars could even drive under its own power? Today we're counting down 20 weird facts about the Bandit's 1977 Trans Am that will completely change how you see this automotive icon. From rocket-powered stunts to the shocking truth about what year these cars actually were, buckle up because some of these revelations are going to blow your mind. And stick around because number 1 reveals something about those cars that even die-hard fans don't know. Let's hit it. Number 20, the year that never was. Here's something that'll mess with your head. That iconic 1977 Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit. It wasn't actually a 1977 model. The primary stunt cars were 1976 Trans Ams dressed up to look like the newer model. Think about that for a second. One of the most famous 77 cars in movie history was actually a 76 in disguise. The production team took 1976 bodies and modified them with updated front ends to match the upcoming 1977 style. They swapped out the round headlights for 4 rectangular ones, added the new grille design, changed the nose piece. It was automotive sleight of hand on a massive scale. Why go through all this trouble? Simple timing. When filming began, the actual 1977 models weren't available yet, but the movie needed that cutting-edge look, so they faked it. And here's the kicker. It worked so well that even today, most people have no idea they're looking at modified 76 models. The movie credits say 1977. Every poster shows a 77. But those cars sliding around corners and jumping ravines, pure 1976 underneath all that makeup. Number 19, the Frankenstein Front End. Let's talk about that front end transformation. This wasn't just slapping on a new bumper and calling it a day. The production team basically performed reconstructive surgery on these cars. They took 1976 Trans Am bodies and grafted on completely different front clips. The 4 rectangular headlights that became so iconic. Those were the signature of the 77 model. The earlier 76s had round headlights. Completely different look. The nose piece, the grille, the entire lighting assembly. All of it was assembled from parts to create an illusion. It's like putting a modern smartphone screen on a flip phone and hoping nobody notices the difference, except they pulled it off perfectly. The really wild part is how seamless they made it look. Watch the movie today and you'd never guess you're looking at a part spin special. Every angle, every shot makes it look like a factory, fresh 77 Trans Am. But underneath that Hollywood magic was good old-fashioned part swapping. They were creating the future using pieces of the past. And the craziest detail? Some of these modifications were so convincing that they influenced how people remember the actual 77 models. The movie version became more real than reality itself. Number 18, the hood scoop lie. That aggressive TA 6.6 liter decal on the hood scoop, it's telling you a story that might not be true. The decal proudly advertised a 6.6 liter engine that's 400 cubic inches of American muscle. Sounds impressive, right? Here's where it gets interesting. Many of the actual stunt cars didn't have what you'd expect under the hood. The decal was more of a suggestion than a promise. Some cars had different engines entirely. The movie cars were a mixed bag of power plants, each chosen for specific stunts or scenes. One might have the advertised engine, another might have something completely different. It was all about what worked for that particular shot. The production didn't care about matching numbers or factory specs, they cared about getting the shot. And those bold graphics on the hood, they were selling an image, not documenting reality. The 6.6 badge became part of the car's character. It didn't matter what was actually churning away under that shaker hood. What mattered was that audiences believed they were watching 400 cubic inches of raw power tear up the South. Sometimes the best automotive facts are the ones that aren't quite facts at all. Number 17, the horsepower reality check. Brace yourself for this one. That fire-breathing Trans Am that outran every cop car in 3 states, it had about 200 horsepower. 200, not 400, not 300, 200. That's less than a modern Honda Accord. The late 70s were the dark ages of American muscle cars. Emission controls had strangled engine output. Insurance companies had declared war on performance. And the mighty Trans Am, despite all its aggressive styling and hood scoops and screaming chicken decals, was putting out numbers that would embarrass a modern minivan. But watching the movie, you'd think that car had 500 horsepower. It's jumping bridges, it's smoking tires through every turn. It's leaving police cruisers in the dust like they're standing still. The reality? Movie magic and clever editing. The stock 1977 Trans Am with its emissions-choked 400 cubic inch engine was quick for its era. But it wasn't the rocket ship the film made it appear to be. Those incredible stunts. They required special modifications, camera tricks, and sometimes just pure momentum. The car's actual performance was so modest that some of the chase scenes had to be filmed at lower speeds and then sped up in editing. Hollywood turned a neutered 70s muscle car into a legend through pure storytelling genius. Number 16. The 4-car shell game. Think you're watching the same Trans Am throughout the movie? Think again. At least 4 different Trans Ams played the role of the Bandit's ride. Each one had a specific job. There was the hero car for close-ups and beauty shots, the stunt cars for the dangerous stuff, and the sacrifice cars that were meant to be destroyed. It's like having 4 actors play the same character, each specializing in different scenes. The production team would swap them out depending on what they needed. Need a perfect shot of Burt Reynolds behind the wheel, bring in the pristine hero car, time for a massive jump. Roll out the reinforced stunt special, about to crash through a billboard. That's a job for one of the expendable cars. But here's what's really clever. They made all 4 cars look identical on camera. Same paint, same decals, same wheels, same interior. The continuity was so good that even eagle-eyed viewers couldn't spot the switches. Each car was modified for its specific role. The stunt cars had reinforced frames and special suspensions. The hero car was kept immaculate for those glamour shots. And the destruction cars? Well, they were basically rolling sacrifices to the movie gods. 4 cars playing one role, and nobody in the audience was any the wiser. Number 15. The rocket-powered secret. That legendary bridge jump over the Mulberry Bridge, the one where the Trans Am soars through the air like it has wings. There's more to that stunt than raw horsepower and a brave stunt driver. Some sources report the car had a little extra help. We're talking about rocket assistance, or at least some kind of special launching mechanism. The standard Trans Am, even with a perfect run-up, couldn't achieve the kind of flight time you see in the movie. Physics just doesn't work that way. So, the stunt team got creative. Really creative. One version of the story says they fitted rocket boosters to give the car extra thrust. Another claims they used a special ramp system that provided more lift than appeared on camera. Whatever the exact method, that car got some serious assistance going airborne. The jump was so violent and the landing so hard that the car was essentially destroyed. The frame bent. The suspension collapsed. Every major component was damaged. But for those few seconds of screen time, that Trans Am flew like nothing else on 4 wheels. It's the kind of stunt that would never be done with a real car today. Too dangerous, too expensive, too insane. But in 1977, they just strapped some extra power to a muscle car and sent it flying. Number 14. The production graveyard. Here's a sobering fact. By the time filming wrapped on Smokey and the Bandit, not a single one of the 4 main Trans Ams was still functional. Every single one was destroyed. These weren't minor dings and scratches we're talking about. These cars were obliterated. The constant high-speed chases, jumps, and crashes had reduced them to scrap metal on wheels. One car was so badly damaged it had to be pushed into position for the final scene. Think about that. The triumphant ending where the Bandit rides off into the sunset. That car couldn't even move under its own power. They literally had to push it into frame and film around its complete mechanical failure. Another car's frame was so bent from jumping that it looked like a banana. The doors wouldn't close properly. The wheels pointed in different directions. The engine mounts were torn loose. It was basically modern art at that point. The production went through Trans Ams like tissues during cold season. They'd use them up, destroy them, and move on to the next one. By the end, they had a parking lot full of automotive casualties. 4 Trans Ams entered the production. 0 survived intact. That's a 100% casualty rate. Even war movies don't usually kill off their entire cast of cars. Number 13. The paint scheme. Psychology. That black and gold color combination wasn't random. It was carefully chosen to make the car pop on screen like nothing else on the road. The production team tested different color combinations. They looked at how each one appeared on film, how it caught the light, how it stood out against different backgrounds. Black and gold won for several reasons. First, it looked menacing. That black paint made the car look like it was carved from shadow. Second, the gold accents caught the light perfectly. Every curve, every detail was highlighted by those golden touches. Third, it photographed beautifully. Film stock in the 70s had specific characteristics, and this color combo worked perfectly with the technology of the time. But there was psychology at play too. Black suggested danger, rebellion, and power. Gold added a touch of class and value. Together they created an image of an outlaw with style, a rebel who did things with flair. The color scheme became so iconic that Pontiac later offered it as a special edition package. Dealers called it the Bandit Edition, and they sold like crazy. People wanted to own that exact combination of colors. They wanted to capture that same rebellious spirit, all because someone in the art department understood how color affects emotion and how emotion sells movie tickets. Number 12, the free car deal. Pontiac basically gave away those Trans Ams to the production. Free cars in exchange for what became the greatest automotive advertisement ever filmed. This wasn't product placement as we know it today, this was a gamble. A huge gamble. Pontiac had no idea the movie would become a phenomenon. They just knew a film featuring their car might help sales. So they made a deal. The production got their cars for essentially nothing. Pontiac got their car featured as the hero vehicle. It seemed like a fair trade at the time. Nobody could have predicted what happened next. The movie exploded into a cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, everyone wanted a black and gold Trans Am. Dealers couldn't keep them in stock. Pontiac's sales numbers went through the roof. They'd spent basically nothing and gotten millions of dollars worth of advertising in return. The Trans Am became the car of 1977 and 78, not because of any magazine ad or TV commercial, but because audiences watched it outrun the law for 96 minutes. Pontiac's gamble paid off so well that it changed how Hollywood and car companies work together. Every car chase movie since has tried to recreate that magic, but none have matched the perfect storm of the right car, the right movie, and the right moment in time. Number 11, the sales explosion. Let's talk numbers, real numbers. Before Smokey and the Bandit, Trans Am sales were decent but not spectacular. After the movie, they went absolutely insane. In 1976, before the film, Pontiac sold about 46,000 Trans Ams. Not bad. Respectable numbers for a specialty performance car. Then the movie hit theaters in May of 1977. By the end of that year, sales had jumped to 68,000 units. The next year, 93,000 Trans Ams rolled off the lots. The year after that, 117,000. The movie had literally tripled Trans Am sales in just 3 years. Dealers reported customers walking in and asking for the Bandit car by name. They didn't want just any Trans Am. They wanted the black one with the gold bird on the hood, the one from the movie. Some dealers started creating their own Bandit editions before Pontiac made it official. They'd take regular Trans Ams and add the black paint and gold accents. Customers would pay premium prices for these conversions. The movie had turned a car into a character, and everyone wanted to own that character. It's one of the most successful examples of a movie selling cars in automotive history, all because Burt Reynolds looked cool jumping a bridge. Number 10, the Honeycomb Heritage. Those distinctive honeycomb wheels spinning on the Bandit's Trans Am, they weren't originally designed for that car. They came from the 1976 50th Anniversary Edition Trans Am. Another piece of the puzzle showing how these cars were cobbled together from different years and models. The honeycomb wheels were special. Pontiac created them to celebrate 50 years of building cars. They were supposed to be exclusive to that anniversary model, limited, special, collectible. Then, the movie production needed wheels that looked futuristic and aggressive. The honeycomb design was perfect, so they grabbed them from the Anniversary Edition and slapped them on their Frankenstein Trans Ams. The funny part is, these wheels became more associated with the Bandit car than with the Anniversary Edition they were designed for. Ask any car enthusiast about honeycomb wheels and they'll immediately think of Smokey and the Bandit. The original Anniversary Edition, largely forgotten. It's like stealing someone's signature move and becoming more famous for it than they ever were. The wheels just looked right on that black and gold paint scheme. They caught the light. They suggested speed even when standing still. And they became another piece of the visual puzzle that made the Bandit Trans Am so memorable. Sometimes the best design choices are the ones you borrow from somewhere else. Number 9, the Screaming Chicken Legacy. That massive golden firebird spreading its wings across the hood became known as the Screaming Chicken, and it might be the most famous hood decal in automotive history. The design wasn't new. Pontiac had been using firebird imagery for years, but the movie turned it into an icon. The way that gold paint caught the light during chase scenes, the way it seemed to come alive when the car was in motion. Suddenly that bird wasn't just a decal, it was a statement. After the movie, everyone wanted the big bird, not the small, subtle Firebird emblems. The huge, in-your-face, hood-dominating, screaming chicken. It became the symbol of American muscle car excess. Bigger, louder, more aggressive. The screaming chicken spawned an entire industry. T-shirts, posters, belt buckles, tattoos. People who had never owned a Trans Am were wearing screaming chicken merchandise. It transcended the car and became its own cultural phenomenon. Even today, decades later, you can buy screaming chicken decals for any car. People put them on Honda Civics, on pickup trucks, on riding mowers, because that golden bird still means something. It means rebellion. It means speed. It means you've got taste in classic movie cars. All because a prop department decided to go with the biggest, boldest version of Pontiac's Firebird logo they could find. Number 8. The CB radio connection. The Trans Am's interior was modified to embrace CB radio culture. This wasn't just a random choice, it tied directly into the movie's trucker outlaw theme. CB radios were having a moment in the 70s. Truckers used them, outlaws used them. Regular people bought them to feel like they were part of something rebellious. The Bandit's Trans Am had to be part of that world. So they integrated CB equipment into the car's interior, not just as a prop, but as a central part of the car's character. The car became a mobile communications center. The Bandit could talk to the snowman. He could listen to police chatter. He could be part of that underground network of road rebels. The CB radio turned the car into more than transportation. It made it a tool of rebellion. A way to stay one step ahead of the law. The interior modifications were subtle, but important. The microphone within easy reach. The radio itself prominently displayed. Even the antenna was positioned to look aggressive and functional. This wasn't just product placement. It was character development through automotive accessories. The CB radio said this car belongs to someone who lives outside normal society. Someone who has their own rules and their own network. The Trans Am wasn't just fast, it was connected. And in 1977, that was just as cool as horsepower. Number 7. The survival myth. Here's something that'll break collectors' hearts. None of the actual stunt cars from the movie survived intact. Zero, nada, nothing. Sure, people claim to own the original Bandit Trans Am. Auction houses occasionally sell cars advertised as screen-used vehicles. But the truth? The real stunt cars were destroyed during filming. What exists today are promotional cars. Tribute builds, cars given to cast members that weren't used in the actual stunts. Burt Reynolds received a Trans Am after filming. That car, which wasn't beaten to death during production, sold at auction for nearly $500,000. But it wasn't one of the cars that jumped bridges or slid around corners. Those cars were gone. The mythology around surviving movie cars is powerful. People want to believe they can own a piece of cinema history, and sometimes sellers are happy to let them believe. A Trans Am that was on set but never used in filming becomes the car from the movie. A promotional vehicle sent to a dealer becomes a screen-used hero car. The real hero cars? They gave their lives for our entertainment. They're not sitting in climate-controlled garages. They were crushed, scrapped, and recycled decades ago. Their sacrifice made the movie legendary. But it also means the actual stars of the show are gone forever. Number 6. The engine swap mysteries. Not all the Trans Ams in the movie had Trans Am engines. The production team swapped power plants based on what each car needed to do. For the high-speed scenes, they wanted reliable power. For the jump stunts, they needed something that could handle the punishment. For the beauty shots, it didn't matter what was under the hood as long as the car looked good. Some cars reportedly had completely different engines installed, not just different versions of the Pontiac motor, but entirely different power plants. The bridge jump car allegedly had a specially built motor and transmission designed to survive the impact. Regular Trans Am components would have shattered on landing. One stunt driver claimed his car had a modified engine with different internals for better durability during the chase scenes. Stock engines couldn't handle hours of full throttle abuse. The production team treated engines like stunt doubles. They'd use whatever worked best for each scene. Continuity? That's what movie magic is for. Nobody in the audience could hear the difference between a 400 and a 455. They just heard American V8 thunder. And as long as it sounded powerful and looked fast on screen, mission accomplished. The engine didn't need to match the hood decal. It just needed to survive until the director yelled cut. Number 5. The final scene. Disaster. Remember that triumphant final scene where the Bandit drives off to his next adventure? The car in that shot was basically dead. It had to be pushed into position by the crew. The engine wouldn't start, the transmission was gone, the suspension was so damaged the car sat at weird angles, but they needed that final shot, so they got creative. Really creative. They positioned the camera to hide the damage, they pushed the car into frame when the cameras weren't rolling. They might have even used some clever editing to make it look like the car was moving under its own power. Think about the irony. The movie ends with the Bandit racing off to another adventure, but in reality that Trans Am's adventure was over. It couldn't even limp to the parking lot. The car that had spent 90 minutes outrunning the law couldn't outrun its own mortality. It's actually kind of poetic. The car gave everything it had for the movie. It literally ran itself to death, entertaining audiences, and its final act was pretending to be ready for more adventures when it was actually ready for the scrapyard. That's dedication to the craft. Even in its death throes, that Trans Am was still selling the illusion of power and rebellion. Number 4. The model year deception. The deception about the car's model year goes deeper than just badge engineering. The entire identity of these cars was fabricated. Registration documents, if they existed, would have shown 1976 models, but every piece of movie marketing claimed 1977. The hood scoops, the spoilers, even some interior pieces were mix and match combinations from different years. The production created automotive chimeras that never existed in any Pontiac factory. They were building their own version of what a 1977 Trans Am should look like, and their version became more real than reality. Even Pontiac seemed to embrace the confusion. When Trans Am sales exploded after the movie, they didn't correct anyone who called it a 77. Why would they? The myth was selling cars. The really bizarre part is that these fake 77s influenced the design of real 78s and 79s. Customers wanted their Trans Ams to look like the movie car, so Pontiac made them look like the movie car, which was actually a modified 76 pretending to be a 77. It's a perfect example of fiction becoming fact. The movie's fantasy Trans Am became the template for real Trans Ams, reality bent to match what Hollywood had created in a Georgia parking lot with spare parts and imagination. Number 3. The Cultural Revolution. The Bandit's Trans Am didn't just sell cars, it changed American culture. Before the movie, muscle cars were fading. Insurance was killing them. Gas prices were rising. The government was imposing stricter emission standards. Performance cars seemed doomed. Then this movie showed up and reminded everyone why they loved fast cars in the first place. It wasn't about the numbers. It wasn't about quarter-mile times. It was about freedom, rebellion, the open road. The Trans Am became a symbol of resistance against the boring, sensible, economy-focused automotive future everyone predicted. Suddenly, wanting an impractical, gas-guzzling muscle car wasn't stupid. It was patriotic. It was rebellious. It was cool again. The movie sparked a mini renaissance for performance cars. Other manufacturers scrambled to create their own Bandit-style special editions. The Dodge Warlock, the Ford Cobra II. Everyone wanted to capture that outlaw magic, but more than that, it changed how Americans thought about cars in movies. Before Smokey and the Bandit, cars were usually just props. After, they could be characters. They could be stars. The Trans Am proved a car could carry a movie just as much as any actor. It paved the way for Knight Rider, the Dukes of Hazzard, and eventually the Fast and the Furious franchise. All because a black and gold Pontiac made being an outlaw look like so much fun. Number 2. The Technical Impossibility. Let's talk about the physics of what you see on screen. Most of those stunts, technically impossible with a stock Trans Am. That bridge jump would have required the car to be traveling at speeds the Trans Am couldn't achieve on that run-up. The landings from those jumps should have destroyed the car instantly. Not damaged, destroyed. The sliding turns through city streets would have flipped a real Trans Am with its high center of gravity and soft suspension. The movie breaks the laws of physics approximately every 3 minutes. But here's the genius part. They made it look believable. Through camera angles, editing, and practical effects, they sold impossible stunts as merely improbable. They turned a 200 horsepower smog-era muscle car into something that seemed capable of anything. The stunt team used every trick in the book. Ramps hidden just out of frame, cars sliding on wet pavement to reduce friction, scenes filmed at different speeds and edited together. They even used different cars for different parts of the same stunt. One car might do the approach, another does the jump, a third does the landing. Edit them together and you've got one impossible stunt that looks absolutely possible. The Trans Am in the movie exists in a universe where physics works differently, where cars can fly further, land harder, and corner faster than reality allows, and we loved every impossible second of it. Number 1. The corporate confusion. Here's the ultimate irony. The car that saved Pontiac's Trans Am division wasn't even a real Pontiac product. It was a Hollywood's creation that Pontiac had almost nothing to do with. Pontiac provided some cars and basic support. That's it. They didn't design the modifications, they didn't plan the color scheme, they didn't create the character. Hollywood did all that. And then Pontiac had to scramble to catch up with their own success. Dealers were getting requests for Bandit editions before Pontiac even knew what a Bandit edition should be. The factory was getting orders for features that didn't exist because people had seen them in the movie. The tail was wagging the dog. A movie prop had become more influential than the actual manufacturer. Pontiac eventually created official Bandit editions, but they were following Hollywood's lead, not the other way around. They were copying a copy of their own car. The 1976 Trans Ams, pretending to be 77s, had become the template for real 78s and 79s. Engineers at Pontiac were literally watching the movie to figure out what customers wanted. The normal relationship between manufacturer and media had been completely reversed. Usually car companies tell filmmakers what's possible. This time, filmmakers told a car company what their own car should be. And the craziest part? It worked. The Hollywood version of the Trans Am became more successful than anything Pontiac could have designed themselves. And there you have it. 20 absolutely wild facts about the Bandit's Trans Am that prove sometimes the best stories are the ones hiding under the hood. Those beat-up 76 models dressed as 77s didn't just outrun Sheriff Buford T. Justice, they outran reality itself and became more legendary than the truth ever could be. Did any of these facts surprise you? Drop a comment below and let us know which one blew your mind the most. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of cinema's most iconic cars, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got plenty more automotive mysteries and Hollywood secrets coming your way. Until next time, keep that hammer down and watch out for Smokies.